And now, on BBC One, we join Nicholas Witchell for a news flash.
Good evening. Lord Stockton, the former Conservative Prime Minister Harold Macmillan, died tonight at his home in Sussex. He was 92. In a statement, his family said he died peacefully after a short illness. His funeral will be held privately next week. The Queen's Press Secretary has said tonight that Her Majesty heard the news with great sadness and has sent a personal message to Lord Stockton's family. The Prime Minister has tonight paid tribute to Lord Stockton's wit, erudition and compassion. Mrs. Thatcher said his death leaves a place no one else can fill. Harold Macmillan held virtually every top office of state in a political career which spanned more than 65 years. John Humphreys looks back now at the life and the many achievements of one of Britain's greatest statesmen of the 20th century.
Macmillan's career in government started under Churchill as the wartime minister-resident in North Africa, and after the war he returned to hold a series of major cabinet posts. It was Macmillan who, as Chancellor, introduced premium bonds and the electronic gadget called Ernie that picked the winning numbers. When Anthony Eden resigned as Prime Minister in the wake of the Suez crisis, it was Macmillan who was chosen to take his place. He soon built a reputation as a travelling statesman. He met de Gaulle in Paris, Adenauer in Bonn. He presented an unflappable image at a time of growing international tension. But his public reputation was based largely on a period of growing prosperity at home. People spent money like never before. Years later, Macmillan recalled it with pride.
Well then, when I left office, we had a balanced budget. We had a favourable balance of trade. We had unemployment running about 600 to 700,000, about 2-3%. Inflation, perhaps 2.5%, not more. We had pound based on gold. We had the sterling area intact, which half the world, we were bankers to half the world. We were really quite a good position. I remember, but you will correct me if I'm wrong, some genial commentator at the time coined a phrase which had a certain popularity. I don't know who it was, who said something like, "You never had it so good."
The electorate, who were having it so good, dubbed him Supermac and returned him to office in 1959 in a landslide. As Britain's world role diminished, Macmillan tried to hold the Commonwealth together. On a trip to South Africa, he urged his audience to adopt a realistic view of Africa's future.
The wind of change is blowing through this continent. And whether we like it or not, this growth of national consciousness is a political fact, and we must all accept it as a fact.
In 1963, Macmillan's career was ended by the strains of the Profumo affair, the revelation that his war minister had had an affair with a prostitute, who in turn had been involved with a Russian naval attaché. Macmillan resigned through ill health. For many years, he was Chancellor of Oxford University, before finally accepting a peerage in 1984 as Earl of Stockton, a constituency he had first represented as MP in the 20s.
63 years ago, I went to Stockton-on-Tees to stand for Parliament. The unemployment figure was then 29%. Last November, I went to a party there of my friends. The unemployment is 28%. Rather sad end to one's life.
The life and career of Lord Stockton, the former Conservative Prime Minister Harold Macmillan, who died tonight at his home in Sussex. He was 92. In further tributes, Neil Kinnock, the Labour leader, said Lord Stockton represented a generation of Tories who recognised duty and honour and pursued the objective of one nation. For that, he said, he would be honoured. The SDP leader, Dr. David Owen, said Lord Stockton was a formidable and effective politician. And the former Conservative Prime Minister Edward Heath said tonight that Lord Stockton had one of the most creative minds in British politics. Well, we'll have more news and more tributes in our news programmes tomorrow. The first at 7 o'clock in the morning, and there'll be a special tribute on BBC One tomorrow night. But for now, from the newsroom, good night.
This is BBC One. And now here's Barry Norman to introduce that movie classic starring Henry Fonda and Victor Mature, My Darling Clementine.